Council Committee on Ordinance and Legislation will come to order. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Councilor Dion?
Here.
Councilor Elizabeth?
Here.
Councilor Reposa?
Here.
Councilor Washington?
Here.
Chair Kadim?
Here. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledgeable and permissible. First item on the agenda is citizen input. Is there anybody who signed up for citizen input? Seeing none. Move on to item number 2, minutes from the August 22nd, 2023 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve was made, seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? So voted, motion carries. Item number 3 is a proposed ordinance, traffic handicap parking, which was referred to the committee on September 12th and October 10th. Eastern Ave, west side, 200 feet south of Downing Street. Eddy Street, west side, 120 feet south side of Beatty Street. Forest Street, east side, 147 feet south of Park Street. Fountain Street, west side, 82 feet south of William Street. Mott Street, west side, 239 feet north of Warren Street. Stafford Road, west side, 110 feet south of Peckham Street. Motion for emergency preamble.
Motion so made.
Second.
Madam Clerk, we call the roll.
Councilor Dion?
Yes.
Councilor Elizabeth?
Yes.
Councilor Reposa?
Yes.
Councilor Washington?
Yes.
Chair Kadim?
Yes.
Motion to pass through all readings and ordination.
Motion to pass through all readings and ordination was made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted, motion carries unanimously. Number 4 is a proposed ordinance, traffic miscellaneous, referred to the committee on September 12th. This is for handicap parking removals. This is going to be removing a sign at Birch Street, north side, 250 feet east of King Street. Forest Street, east side, 140 feet south of Cottage Street. Fountain Street, west side, 85 feet south of William Street. Osborne Street, south side, 60 feet east of Ridge Street. Swindell Street, west side, 116 feet north of Pleasant Street.
Motion to pass through first reading.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Motion carries unanimously. And then the final item on the agenda is the proposed ordinance establishing the position of Finance Management and Compliance Analyst. This was referred to the committee on September 26th. I'll ask the administration to come down.
No pun intended.
It was so much faster. I'm playing checkers and Michelle's playing chess. Swear to God.
All right, so I know we've got a letter before us kind of describing in the job description, but do you want to just, for the record, describe what the intention is?
Yeah. This.
So this position is something that we've identified a need for in the last several months. I'm going to turn it over to the CFO in a moment, just as sort of a kind of preamble here. First of all, it's a cost-neutral position. We have had an assistant auditor position budgeted and unfilled for some time, and what we've determined is that it's really not where we need to have our personnel resources in the financial management team. What we really need is somebody who can be a resource for all of the divisions within the finance team, whether it's the treasurer, collector, the auditor, the assessor, or helping the CFO when it comes to budget time, when it comes to special project, when it comes to doing a very deep analytical dive into how we are building our budgets, how we are distributing our resources, how we're using our resources. And so this position, this financial management and compliance, and we originally called it analyst, we wanted to have near a director level of authority in order to make sure that everyone that this person will be working with understands the level of of training, the level of background, the level of work that this person is going to be doing. So we would actually request for an adjustment, if you're willing to support this, to call it the Financial Management and Compliance Administrator. So it's not a department head, because it's somebody that works within the financial services team, but that person would be working with and providing analytical support for the entire mission of the team. The reason it's a cost-neutral position is that we have the assistant auditor position open. CFO Ullman has taken a really deep dive over the last year or so into that team to understand what the needs are. And at this point, there's a sense that the auditor position has become very much a nonstop, full-time city accountant, basically, between payroll for both the schools and the city and a number of other functions. That person doesn't really have the capacity anymore to be doing high-level analysis and budget work. On the other hand, an assistant auditor is really not what we need to do that work. What we need is somebody that's going to be part of all the different divisions. In addition to that, we have an open purchasing agent. Since the purchasing agent that we did have left, what we found is that there are a lot of ways that we want to conduct purchasing that are different than the way it's been being done. Nothing necessarily wrong with how it's being done, but for a city this size, it just hasn't been as robust as we would like it to be, and not as much oversight as we want it to have. And so in the meantime, over the past several months, we've sent a number of city employees to purchasing training to get them certified, so that what we can do is we can put the onus on departments to begin some of the RFP and RFQ processes, have oversight within the financial team of those processes, and make sure that everything we're doing from a procurement and purchasing standpoint, one, has the buy-in of everybody, has total oversight and accountability all the time. And the way to do that is not just to have a single purchasing agent. So at this point, we don't intend to fill the purchasing position. We intend to reevaluate what the needs are within that department. But at this point, we are on the cusp of having 5 or 6 people within city government purchasing certified, which is, I think, going to be a very different picture than what we've had before. And I think it's going to really it's really going to professionalize how we've dealt with procurement. But by not filling that position, what we're proposing here is a revenue neutral position in the creation of the administrator. I'm going to turn it over to the CFO to get a little bit more into the details and the numbers about the position.
So this position is, I mean, at this point, the auditor really is a service person to all of the finance, to all of the departments within the city. And again, the city auditor is extremely busy just handling like day-to-day, going through all the purchase orders. I mean, this time, I think we have roughly over 900 purchase orders a month. And creating new fund accounts, and I mean, there's just not enough time to help do all these other things. I don't know if you're all familiar with, like, for example, the city of Brockton and the excessive overspending of their grant funds. So we have over 160 grant and side funds that we need to be doing, like reviewing. So it's really to provide like more of a high-level statistical analysis, to be paying attention to all these things and helping getting a lot of our systems talking together, because right now everything is very manual. So that's, I mean, I'm asking you to all support this. We're not asking to create any FTEs, we're just asking to
Questions, Councilor Reposo? Question on the 2 budgeted positions, the purchasing agent and the assistant auditor. Do you know what those are budgeted, or recall?
So the assistant auditor was budgeted at around 72,000, but the assistant auditor was just promoted to auditor.
Yep.
And so we had 125,000 budgeted in auditor, and I think we have about 62,000 budgeted in purchasing.
Okay. All right. And then the position you're proposing here is a per contract position?
Correct.
Based on whatever that becomes the offer. And then the one thing I did ask here is, in the letter it mentions that for functions throughout the city of Fall River and the Fall River Public Schools. So is this being completely funded by the city and not by the schools in any way?
This is, at this point, being completely funded by the city, but we are responsible for oversight of the schools.
Okay. I yield, thank you.
Council Dion?
So the individual that would take this position, would they be familiar with procurement laws? Will they be overseeing the department people who are going to start taking part in the procurement process?
So they would certainly have a high-level supervisory role in procurement, no question about it. Ultimately, procurement begins and ends with the CFO, because, one of the reasons we moved purchasing into the finance department is that we felt like it was just too far away from the financial services and financial functions of the city where it originally was, which, if you'll recall, was, I think, in DCM. And so if you look at how it's normally done, it's either finance or sometimes it's in facilities. Here, the CFO will have oversight over this new person. This person will have significant involvement in purchasing. But what we're trying to do also is as we move forward, distribute out more of the purchasing knowledge and sort of professional best practices to the departments. So they're part of their purchasing as well. And it really keeps departments from inadvertently doing things outside of the purchasing rules without knowing that it's wrong. And so there's been a pretty significant effort to make sure that everybody's part of this.
So at this point in time, because of the purchasing department and the assistant auditor position, at this point in time, it's cost neutral.
Correct.
Are we going to, in ordinance, remove the assistant auditor's position from the budget? Where this person basically, where I'm kind of hearing, we don't need that individual anymore.
So, you want to answer that? I can answer that. Yeah, let me grab that. So ultimately, I think that's the goal. I'm not interested in just continuing to, add FTEs and not get rid of the ones that aren't needed. That's crazy. That said, right now, we have a strategy that we think is going to work, and not just work, but is really going to benefit the city and make the processes that we have going on more efficient, more effective, deeper dive. That said, I would probably wait for one cycle to get rid of that FTE, just to make sure that, this was the right call. This is, if we find the right person, that we're able to find the right person. And then after that, I would agree wholeheartedly that we don't need to keep holding on to FTEs just to have them.
Right, so I would follow also up with, you said at this time, the purchasing department. You wouldn't get rid of that position at this time either, but is this in the same vein that if this does work out the way that you're hoping it will, that both of those positions will be eliminated? Or do you see down the road at some point still filling the purchasing vacancy? Because if so, at that point, this is no longer cost neutral.
Right. Yeah, so, yes, the purchasing agent as it exists right now will very likely prove not to be a necessary position. That said, I think going forward, as we're looking at this and looking at the number of people that we're getting certified to be part of this, we're going to probably have a conversation about what it is we actually need. And I don't think we really know. I think that what we've been doing is we've had kind of a reactionary approach to procurement off and on, different people in the job and people filling in and doing the best they can, but maybe not everything that we have needed as a city of this size with as many different things going on. So we're going to look at that. I think we'll probably come to the conclusion that we don't need that position, but we need to identify some points of contact, some people who are responsible ultimately for purchasing. It may not be the best committee approach, but I think at that point, we're going to know that position is probably no longer needed. But I would, again, probably wait a fiscal year to do that.
Okay, so and then let's look at the other side of it. Let's say that it doesn't work out the way you're anticipating. The other two positions, you get to the point you feel they need to be filled, does this position get eliminated? Because again, if you have three people, now it's no longer cost neutral.
So,
Now you're creating essentially two extra positions. I know they're there, they exist now.
Yep.
But it's still gonna be three people as opposed to one.
so now we're kind of in the realm of like a law school essay problem, right? We're way down the road, right? We have a lot of different variables. I can't in good faith say, yes, absolutely, we will do X, Y, and Z. All I can say right now is that after a tremendous amount of study, we believe this position is really important for the health of the financial department going forward. And we don't believe that the purchasing agent, as it's constituted right now, the assistant auditor, as it's been for however long, are necessary positions within the city. I can't, it would.
I
mean,
understand that, I'm just,
like, I'd love to speculate, but it's so hard to know exactly what's gonna happen and how things will change. And I just think it would be unfair to be like, yes, because, it supports what I'm trying to get you to do, when in fact, I don't know what would actually happen. It would be dishonest.
I mean, if it's truly cost neutral and we're gonna ultimately have one person, I can work with that. If it's gonna lead to 3 people and it's no longer cost neutral, I can't work with that. I'm much more fiscally conservative than that, and so that's my quandary at this point.
The plan is a single person. The plan is cost neutral. The plan is not to fill those positions. All I can say is that if we feel like there is a different need than we've identified, or we feel like the need wasn't accurately or fully identified, we'll come back to the council and we'll explain exactly where we stand. And at that point, if you can't support what we want to do, I certainly understand that, because we're trying the best we can to be responsible with the resources that the residents of the city give us to do the work. So all I can tell you right now is what's planned, and what's planned is this one person to not fill those positions and to empower that one person to do the work we need them to do.
So my last question would be, do you have somebody in mind? Are you going to advertise it? Where are you in that process? How comfortable do you feel with being able to fill this position?
I believe we can fill this position. There are some folks that I think we would target. There's a person that I think we would target. But at the same time, I would be open to any qualified person. But at the end of the day, this is a really specific skill set. It's a very high-level skill set. And so it would, ideally, obviously you want to create the positions that you need. But in this day and age, in this climate, it would be hard to do that without having some sense of who might be able to come in and help us immediately. So we have a sense of that. I just wouldn't say it's any more than that, a
Okay,
sense.
thank you. With that, I yield.
Thank you. Councilor Liberty?
Thank you. Councilor Dion asked most of my questions. I feel the same as she did, that it's only cost neutral to the end of the fiscal year, and then it's a possibility of not being cost neutral anymore after that. You were going to answer that question before.
I apologize. I talked too much.
No, that's okay.
I'm so sorry.
Can we hear your opinion on it?
I just want to say that, I mean, the traditional auditor and assistant auditor roles have dramatically changed. So we need different things now. And so I can fully, wholeheartedly believe that this position, we do need. I don't think that we need the assistant auditor as it stood. I think, so, and again, purchasing, we're really evaluating and trying to make the most cost-effective plan for the city. I mean, right now, our purchasing department is the smallest, I think, probably in the state. It's definitely for a city our size. I mean, if we look at comparatively, so we're not trying to like blow it out and be robust about it, but we're also trying to make sure that we're in compliance and that we're following all of the mass procurement laws.
So I would feel better as well if these were, removed and in order to put this one in. You have it as per contract, but you have somebody in mind. Do you have an idea in your heads of where you see this position landing at,
We haven't gotten there.
salary-wise?
I mean, I have a sense of where, somebody at that level would probably ask to get paid. At this point, there is not any sort of agreement or conversation about where that person, whoever ends up being the best candidate, would end up. But I would imagine it's going to be more than what is budgeted for the assistant auditor. It's probably going to be close to what we would be paying a department head.
And the assistant auditor is budgeted at 77, you said?
Yes,
And purchasing is,
63, 62.
okay. With that, I yield.
Thank you. Councilor Washington?
I just have a couple of comments, so the assistant auditor, we had the assistant auditor acting as the auditor for a while. He's moved up. So it looks like the assistant, that position you're saying is no longer needed. It looks like it's going to be almost like an assistant for you. So is how I'm looking at it. So there's been a lot of consulting in that department, instead of putting in a job right now that in a year we may need other jobs. No one, it's kind of like no one really knows, we may not. Instead of putting that on the taxpayers to create a job and then in a year we may need a job, how about a consultant for that position? Can we consult with someone for a year in that role as in like,
So if we were gonna pay a consultant in that role, you're gonna pay over $200 and up to $300 an hour.
well, I'm,
So you're probably looking at a $200,000.
so I'm looking at in a year and a half, 2 years, that we need all three of those positions filled. And what does that look like long-term as far as benefits go, as far as, insurance goes, fringe benefits, all of that, long-term, what can we do in the short term? If we don't even know, there's so many unknowns here, if we don't even know, we don't know if the assistant auditor, he's new to that position, does he really not need an assistant anymore? You're needing an assistant to look at some of these grants. We don't know, the purchasing agent, well, we haven't filled that. We're gonna train 6 other people and see, we may not need that position. To me, it just feels like a lot of unknowns to create a position that we may need these positions. It's not a definite out of your own words that we 100% don't need those positions.
So I feel very comfortable that this position, that we will not be replacing the assistant auditor position. And I also believe that this person or this position would also be working very closely with the auditor and helping. I mean, traditionally, the auditor position had time to do a lot of these things. Right now, there's not that time. I mean, that department had traditionally, prior to COVID, there was over 7 people in that department.
So
we're
ahead.
trying to find a higher level candidate that can do more in less time because of the experience they have, and also try to provide assistance to all of the financial city departments. So this person would also be helping, this candidate would be helping fill in, where needed in treasury, if we're short in treasury, helping fill in gaps in other departments as well.
So who now, you said you have 160 grants,
There's over 160 grants and special revenue funds.
who traditionally has overseen
We
that?
had a grant manager prior to this.
And that's Jane, right?
No.
That was just greater.
No, this was like an accounting.
So that position has not been filled?
That position has not been filled in, 6-7 years.
So no one has been overseeing 160 grants and special fund?
The city auditor was trying to do all of that.
But we're eliminating the assistant auditor that would help that.
So traditionally, they had an auditor, an assistant auditor, and a grants manager.
Yeah.
We don't have.
And the
all of
grants manager hasn't been filled in how long?
that. 6,
So,
7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can provide some history. So probably 2012-ish, we created the grants manager position, so we had 2 positions. So prior to that, it was just the auditor, assistant auditor. We recognized, obviously, there was a lot of grants, there was a lot of deficits with the grants that were kind of eating into our free cash. So we established the grants manager position. We had those 2 positions filled. I want to say the second grants manager person left within a year and a half. And then it was Jennifer Ago. She was the last grants manager. And then when Krishan left and she moved up to the auditor, it was never backfilled.
Never backfilled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. I feel like there's just a lot of unknowns here. So with that, I yield.
Councilor Liberty?
Just one question. Is Mr. Iacopone still consulting?
Mr. Iacopone is consulting probably about 5 to 10 hours at most a week,
So he's,
and he's working directly with our auditor.
I yield.
Any further discussions, questions, motions? Adjournment?
You?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Do you need more time for consideration? If that's the case, motion to table, if you're comfortable with it.
Motion to table.
Second.
Motion to table was made by Councilor Liberty, seconded by Councilor Washington. No discussion on the motion to table, so Madam Clerk, will you call the roll? Just
Councilor Ford,
Yes.
Councilor Liberty,
Yes.
Councilor Reposo,
Yes.
Councilor Washington,
Yes.
Chair Kaditi.
no. Motion carries, so the item's tabled.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Made by Council Reposo, second by Council Dion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Motion carries.